St. Thomas and Guy's Hospital. One day I will tell you about that hospital and my experience. Not today. I once worked in that hospital. Yeah, look on the House of Parliament, and that's all decision make once that govern the world. Famous. It's the real Scottish man. And it's killed. So I'm going now on the Westminster walkway.
Porque te acuerdas que esa camiseta
Está Gregory.
Where's that music coming from?
I think I did the sea life, London Dungeons and the Eye in one like ticket. Yeah, I want to do the donut on the eye one day. Wouldn't necessarily want to see that. Sarah said it's really good.
Rosie, because Rosie was like,
When we see them, we have to go to the area. Which was really funny. Just scared. Screaming, like just going out as well. You can leave at any time, and they were just like, I'm leaving. I'm not.
it's not brilliant, but out of all of them, I think it's the best.
Oh, love
How many shrimps and vegetables do you Well, I went for God.
No, I mean like this.
Non cambia normal, santo.
Don't go, no move, don't go.
are required by law to run you through a brief safety announcement. The safety announcement, not to alarm you, just routine. To let you know, this is the City Gamma. Now on board the boats we carry life rafts, we have life rigs, and we also have life jackets. The crew are fully trained in the very unlikely event of an emergency. Good luck. Now follow instructions given by a crew member. Now, as I did say, that's nothing to alarm you. Sit back, enjoy the journey, and our next stop, Westminster. Driving the boat, we have our captain Sean and myself, Danny. We're both captains on the river, and I've worked here for 17 years. Over the years, I have learnt about some of the sights around us, and what we like to do on board this boat is provide you with a live commentary along the way. So I'd like to stand here with you, pass on some local knowledge, and hopefully make the trip more interesting. Is that okay with everyone? Yeah? Okay, brilliant. I'll give that a go. Now, I do apologise, I can only speak one language. I will try to speak clearly and slowly. Hopefully that helps. I will try pointing as well. I will try my very best. If I do make any mistakes, please bear with me. And we'll start our commentary off. We'll mention to the left, in the river, we have a warship, the HMS Belfast. Built in Belfast, Northern Ireland, in the same shipyard that built the Titanic, the Harland and Wolff shipyard. The Belfast saw action throughout World War II. She bombed the beaches of Normandy during the D-Day landings, last firing those guns in conflict during the Korean War campaign. Permanently moored in London as part of the Imperial War Museum, the HMS Belfast. Good day out for the kids on board. Then we have a nice building to our right, the long white building, Waterguard House, London's headquarters for Her Majesty's Customs and Excise. If anything was to be smuggled into the country, things like tobacco, alcohol or drugs, it's all confiscated and they keep it in the basement of that building. They do say that at the end of every month, it's destroyed. And rumour has it their Christmas parties are phenomenal. And also to our right, a tall glass building with a curved roof. On top of that building, the largest rooftop garden in the UK. Open to the public. It is free of charge to go to the top. It won't cost you anything. If anyone would like to go to the top of that building, you can book online and their website, the Sky Garden London. So bear that in mind, free of charge to go to the top. A building to our left, I'm sure you've seen this one throughout London. The tallest building in Western Europe, the Shard. The Shard is just over 1,000 feet high. You can go to the top. It will cost you about £40, or just under £40, I believe. But as you can imagine, the views are brilliant, the Shard. There's also a hotel inside the building, the Shangri-La Hotel. There's bars, there's restaurants and private apartments. It's the tallest building in Western Europe. And now in front, we're about to go under the most historical river crossing over the Thames. And this, ladies and gents, the world famous London Bridge. And this is the 5th London Bridge to stand here. Opened in 1973 by Her Majesty the Queen. And there has been a river crossing called London Bridge here for 2,000 years. London Bridge. The first one, it was actually built by the Romans. This is a very shallow part of the river. At low water, there can be as little as 6 feet of water. at that point. So a very shallow part of the river. The Romans built a bridge across. Southwark Cathedral to our left between the buildings, London's third largest place of worship. And also to our left, a pirate ship. Now the pirate ship is a working replica to Sir Francis Drake's Golden Hind. And Drake was the first Englishman to sail a ship around the world. He did so on a boat identical to that. Now the replica is there today as a museum. I think it might be closed at the moment as there's a bit of refurbishment going on with the ship, but it's a nice place for the kids. And then we have Cannon Street Railway Bridge in front of the boat, Cannon Street Station to the right. Underneath the bridge to the right there's a glass box. Look through the windows and if we're lucky we might see semi-naked people. There we go. And that is a relaxation room for a health spa. They thought it was a good idea to hide it under the bridge, not thinking about us going by every few minutes. And believe me, some days are much better than others. Right all the time. Through the bridge to the left, a red brick building, the Anchor. Parts of that pub dates back 400 years. It was built in 1615 and it's even said the likes of Shakespeare and his actors would have used that pub. Even look, it's not even midday and there's people in the beer garden. I suppose it's 5 o'clock somewhere, good luck to it. Southwark Road Bridge, a very quiet bridge. The main approach roads are hidden in the back streets, makes it difficult to find. Won't see many people on that bridge normally. As we come through the bridge, ahead of us to the left, a round white building with a thatched roof. And that's the replica to Shakespeare's Globe Theatre. It was opened in 1997. In the Globe Theatre, they reenact Shakespeare's plays. All of those plays, they are set traditionally, as they would have been in the Elizabethan era. The building seats just over 2,000 people. A great atmosphere in the Globe when a play begins. It's also the only building in London that's been allowed to be made of timber and thatch since the Great Fire of London. Buildings made of timber and thatch caused the spread of the fire, so they was outlawed. They did change the law to bring the Globe Theatre back. Quite a famous bridge in front of the boat, the Millennium Footbridge. Some of the children may recognise it from a Harry Potter movie. It has a nickname in London, the Wibbly Wobbly Bridge. When this bridge first opened, lots of people walked across. The bridge, it was swinging from side to side. People thought it was supposed to happen, but it wasn't. The bridge was opened on a Saturday morning in the millennium year by the Queen. It was closed the same afternoon by the police. It was wibbling and wobbling. Follow the bridge to the right through the buildings and it does ruin a side-on view of St Paul's Cathedral. Now St Paul's Cathedral, 365 feet high. That building took 35 years to construct and it was designed by Christopher Wren. Above the dome of St Paul's there is a viewing platform and you can go to the top. The views are just as good as the London Eye. The only problem, to reach the top, there is no lift inside and you will have to climb over 500 steps. Now it takes about 3 days to get there. The views are pretty good. To the left, the Tate Modern Art Gallery, the largest modern art gallery in the world. Free to enter if you like modern art. And in front of the boat, we have a group of bridges. They mark the halfway point of our journey. The first one that we go underneath, the Blackfriars Railway Bridge. A few years back, this bridge was made wider so more trains could come in and out of London. The bridge was made wider for the Olympic Games in 2012. It was a massive project to make the bridge wider. It was finished in 2013. It's a little bit delayed and it wasn't open in time. As we come through the bridge, left and right of us, you'll see how they made the bridge wider. It was extended onto the red columns, left and right of the boat. The red columns are the remains of the first railway bridge in London. The top became unsafe and it was lifted off about 40 years ago. The red columns, they could not be removed. If the columns were pulled up, then this third bridge may have fallen down because it shares foundations with the bridge, with the columns under the riverbed. And this one's the Blackfriars Road Bridge. And we are now halfway to Westminster. How is everyone feeling? Everyone good? Everyone all right? Excellent. It's a lovely day. It's nice to see everybody out on the river. Thanks for coming. It's a lovely day for it. It's been very quiet the last few years. I actually left this job. I've only started back 2 weeks ago. I left for 2 years. And I started working for the people on our right. There's a construction site. This construction site is one of 11. And this site is where they are replacing the old Victorian sewage pipes. What we was doing, I wasn't working on the site, I was working on tugboats. Now, to replace the Victorian sewage pipes, they are digging beneath the river. All the soil, the dirt and the chalk that comes up from beneath the river, it gets put into barges. And we was towing away barges full of chalk. 6,000 tonnes of chalk every day from one site. I was a little bit further downriver, but it was for the same company. The old Victorian sewage pipes that run beneath London, when they was first put in, they was only designed to accommodate about 2 million people. In London today, there are over 10 million people. So the Victorian sewage pipes just can't cope with all the sheer amounts of waste that London is producing. So they've started this project. It's been going on for about 6 or 7 years. There's still 2 years left. A 30-mile long tunnel going beneath London. It's called the Thames Tideway Tunnel. If anyone's interested, have a look online, the Thames Tideway Tunnel. Now at the moment, we are actually going against the outgoing ebb tide. So at the moment, the water level in London, it's dropping. The tide goes out to the North Sea, and that's about 40 miles behind us. The tide leaves for 7 hours. Shortly, the tide, it will turn and it will flood back for 5 hours. In that 5 hours, the water level will rise about 7 metres. So very, very powerful tides. And you can see on the river wall to our right, the high water mark. So that's where we'll be later on this afternoon. Back on the left, this might surprise some of you. In London, we have one of the best beaches in the world. Very popular during the summer. You'll see people sunbathing, children playing and paddling in the polluted river. Popular day out for the kids, bring them down, I love it. Now that is it's a good sign to us. These beaches are appearing everywhere, and it's a good sign to us of how clean the river is becoming. See, the sand, it naturally falls on the slower moving parts of the river. So where the tide isn't as fast, the sand naturally falls and drops. That one there ahead of us, say I've been here for 17 years now. That beach was never like that before. It was always just a bit oily and but it's a good sign to us of how clean the Thames is becoming.
There's another boat.
See, way with her black. Our boat's better than yours. A bit newer these ones, about 6 years old these boats. The boat to the right, see this black and white boat, the old St Catherine. At one time, that was the royal barge on the River Thames. Years ago, if royalty travelled on this river, that's the boat they would have used. Moored there now as a bar and restaurant. It's called the Yacht. Told it's very nice on board. Something that might interest the ladies. Ahead of us, we have Waterloo Bridge, known on the river as the Ladies' Bridge. It was built by ladies, built by the women of London during World War II, and that's when the men were away fighting. Whilst the bridge was under construction, the ladies took fire from enemy aircraft flying over London. As we get closer to the bridge, see where that lady's, I think she's just about to stop. She's just by the railing. Look underneath her, on the face of the bridge, can you see the big holes in it? Now they're bullet holes. It didn't faze the girls, they finished the job off with a group of people like just underneath them. Look. So they finished the job off. Well done to the girls. Waterloo Bridge, the Ladies' Bridge. Now through the bridge to the right, the Savoy Hotel, one of London's top hotels. One night's accommodation in the Savoy, £600, one night. In the morning you get a full English breakfast with 2 sausages, so it's not that bad, though. Also to our right, this is the oldest landmark you'll see today. On the river wall, the stone obelisk, Cleopatra's Needle, made in Egypt over 3,500 years ago. It was given to this country about 200 years ago, and that was to celebrate Nelson's victory over Napoleon at the Battle of the Nile. Cleopatra's Needle. To the left, the Royal Festival Hall, the last remaining building from the Festival of Great Britain in 1951, said to be one of Europe's finest concert halls. And then in front of us, the last bridge of our journey, the Charing Cross Railway Bridge. A tradition as we go through the last bridge, we normally wave to anybody standing above, but it's pretty quiet up there today. I'm not too sure if we'll get a wave back. We'll try anyway, we'll wave them up, they looking down, they're going to wave. If they don't wave, oh they'll wave, we pay that couple to stand there waving. If they don't wave, it just means they're from London and they're miserable like the rest of us. And there's a bridge on the other side as well. And keep waving, keep smiling, it does tend to stop people throwing things as well. There we go, nice people today. Now through the bridge to the right, the Gothic style building is Whitehall Court Mansions, houses the 5-star Horse Guards Hotel. Also inside there, the Winston Churchill Wartime Office Museum. Over to the left hand side, towering above our heads, London's top tourist attraction, the London Eye. 450 feet high. It takes half an hour to go around, and one trip will cost you £30 each. It's a great way to see London if you're pushed for time. There are 32 glass pods. You can hire a pod for a private function for £1,000. And lots of people have started to get married on the London Eye. You can get married on the wheel. I wouldn't recommend it. Marriage. Now, it is a good way to see London if you push this one. The building behind the London Eye, that white building, County Hall. Most of that building is a hotel. In the basement of County Hall, some really good attractions for the kids. Things like the Shrek's Adventure, the the London Aquarium, the Sea Life Centre, and for the older kids and adults, the London Dungeons, all to our left. Now to the right, ladies and gents, this is our destination, Westminster Pier. We're just going to angle the boat slightly so that you can get a better view of the last buildings I'll mention. To the right, we have the Houses of Parliament, and of course, what's known throughout the world as Big Ben. Now, I'm pretty sure that we all call that clock tower Big Ben. Its official name is the Elizabeth Tower. Now, the name Big Ben is given to the bell inside the tower, and that's the bell that chimes on the hour. Parliament, for the last few years, has been undergoing a massive refurbishment. Whilst the refurbishment was taking place, the bell was taken out of action, and it will stay out of action until the scaffolding comes down. You will only hear Big Ben on a special occasion. So things like New Year's Eve, you will hear Big Ben. Remembrance Day, you'll hear Big Ben. The Queen's birthday, my birthday, any special occasion you will hear Big Ben. But sadly, other than that, we won't hear it. It's a lovely building, Parliament. Whilst you're here, I'd highly recommend walking around to take a look. Lots of detail that you can't see from the river. Worth going to see. So what we're going to do now, ladies and gents, we are going to make our way alongside the pier. Folks, as we do this, just for your safety, if we could ask that you remain seated. If you're there, hold on, but best to just stay seated in case there's a little bump. Okay? If anybody has bus tickets, if you'd like to continue the tour by bus, there's a guy standing to the right in an orange suit. Can you see him? That's where the bus stop is. That's where they go. They stop on the main road. If anyone would like the underground station, Westminster Tube Station, that's ahead of us to the right. See where you can see the hole in the wall there? It's right at the exit, you won't miss it. Westminster Tube Station. Please make sure if you are leaving us that you have your belongings, your bags, your cameras, your phones, your wallets. If you have brought them, take your children. Okay, it is shocking the amount of people that leave their kids. Take them with you. Not just your favourite ones either, okay? Take them all. Make sure you've got everything and everyone. And then lastly, ladies and gents, I would like to thank you for your very kind attention as we've come through London. Hopefully something we've mentioned has been of some interest. As we mentioned at the start of the journey, on board these boats, me and my friend driving, we are the crew. We are Thames watermen. Now over the years it has become a tradition that we point the buildings out, so hopefully it's been of some interest. And because these commentaries are done by us, the crew, on the river we do have an old tradition. As you leave the boat at the exit, I will be there to help you off. Now on the side we leave a silver ice bucket, and that, ladies and gents, is our little tip bucket. If anybody on board today has understood, enjoyed the few words that I've given, if you'd like to drop something into our bucket, it is greatly appreciated. Of course, you're under no obligation to do so, but anything given, say, greatly appreciated. I hope you've enjoyed it. Have a lovely time whilst you're here in London. It's a lovely day, so enjoy yourselves, and thank you very much for using the river. I enjoyed talking to you. Have a great day. Thank you. That was very kind. Thank you very much.
Yeah, this is the financial district of the world, Canary Wharf, on my right. You can see JP Morgan over there on my right. That's where most of the slave money is stored. Alongside with Lloyd Bank, Lloyds of London.
skyscrapers at Canary Wharf, a parade of office workers arrives with briefcases and lunchboxes, mobile phones glued to their ears. You might think Canary Wharf is all business all the time, but you'd be wrong. Come the weekend, the executive who spends Monday to Friday buried in stockrows is with her kids petting sheep at Mudchute City Farm, a rural utopia in the middle of the Isle of Dogs. The loan officer sheds his suit of cycling gear or hikes to the Tower of London on the Thames Farm National Trail.
You can see the same phenomenon all over London. Look past the palaces, monuments and souvenir stands, and walk into the real London lifestyle, a jogger dodging tourists in Trafalgar Square, a kayaker riding the tide under Westminster Bridge, or a mum on the tube carrying fresh fruit home from the farmer's market.
Early risers get up at 4 a.m. to find the perfect bouquet at New Covent Garden Flower Market. Artists sketch the masterpieces at the National Portrait Gallery. Intellectuals go to talk to the Royal Institute of Philosophy. Swing dancers work up a sweat at Saturday Night's Swing Club.
And fun lovers flock to any number of parades and public events. My favourite is the Parliamentary Pancake Race, or Pancake Day, also known as Shrove Tuesday. There's nothing funnier than watching members of Parliament trying to flip pancakes while they stagger towards the finish line.
Londoners go mad for sport. The whole city is fiercely opinionated about football. Soccer to the Americans. You should hear the roar at a football match at Wembley Stadium. And practically every village, town and county has a club that knows English of games. Cricket. Well played!
Culture vultures flock to the Tate Museums. Parents take their children to see the robotic dinosaurs at the Natural History Museum, and lovers go on dates in nightclubs, restaurants and theatres all over town. As Samuel Johnson and many others have said, when you're tired of London, you're tired of life.
London's oldest riverside pub, the Prospect of Whitby, is a white three-storey building beside a weeping willow on the north bank. Pub is short for public house. In England, the local pub has always been a home away from home. When you want to socialise with your mates, you meet at the pub for a pint and a game of darts. The Prospect of Whitby has pillars made of ship's masts and an old-fashioned pewter-top bar set on barrels. Besides beer, ale and liquor, it serves food, including English classics like steak and ale pie.
If pub fare doesn't whet your appetite, London has an international reputation as a gastronomic paradise. Celebrity chefs set up shop all over town. You've seen Jamie Oliver and that grouchy Gordon Ramsay on television. Why not sample their new cuisine yourself? My favourites are women chefs like Angela Hartman, puts a little taste of Italy in everything she cooks. And Thomasina Mears, who brought the flavours of Mexican street food to London. In fact, some of the best food in London today is served right on the street. Farmers' markets bring the freshest, most delectable vegetables straight from the vine into the city. Food stalls at street markets serve home-cooked delicacies from around the world. And for real value, look for a good food truck. I'm not kidding. London food trucks serve a lot more than hot dogs these days. Instead, you can tear into scrumptious specialities made with fresh local ingredients and sold at prices no restaurant can match, like Jamaican jerk chicken, Japanese-style macaroons, and American Southern-style barbecue.
Don't let all this multi-culti talk scare you away from traditional English food. For my money, there's absolutely nothing better than good fish and chips, a slab of moist, flaky white fish, and crisp fried potatoes so hot they burn your fingers. Douse them in vinegar and you've got a feast. Don't forget two more English favourites, pie and mash and jellied eels. London is also a great place to eat a gourmet hamburger.
How about something a bit more genteel, like afternoon tea? Picture yourself floating down the Thames drinking good British tea and eating finger sandwiches, cakes and scones with jam and a generous dollop of cream. That's just one of City Cruise's exciting excursions that include delightful food and drink. Besides the tea cruise, we feature a lunch cruise. And there's live entertainment on the London Showboat Dinner Cruise and the Sundowner Cruise. For more information, ask any crew member.
Getting back to drinking,
I suspected you might.
you can sample the best of food and drink at an incredible array of London gastro pubs. And we have tip-top microbreweries serving artisan handmade beers in varieties you won't find anywhere else, like mango-flavoured wheat beer.
That sounds less like a beer than a pudding. In other words, dessert.
London's oldest riverside pub, the Prospect of Whitby, is a white three-storey building beside a weeping willow on the north bank. Pub is short for public house. In England, the local pub has always been a home away from home. When you want to socialise with your mates, you meet at the pub for a pint and a game of darts. The Prospect of Whitby has pillars made of ship's masts and an old-fashioned pewter-top bar set on barrels. Besides beer, ale and liquor, it serves food, including English classics like steak and ale pie.
If pub fare doesn't whet your appetite, London has an international reputation as a gastronome's paradise. Celebrity chefs have set up shop all over town. You've seen Jamie Oliver and that grouchy Gordon Ramsay on television. Why not sample their home cuisine yourself? My favourites are women chefs like Angela Hartman, who puts a little taste of Italy in everything she cooks, and Thomasina Mears, who brought the flavours of Mexican street food to London. In fact, some of the best food in London today is served right on the street. Farmers' markets bring the freshest, most delectable vegetables straight from the vine into the city. Food stalls at street markets serve home-cooked delicacies from around the world. And for real value, look for a good food truck. I'm not kidding. London food trucks serve a lot more than hot dogs these days. Instead, you can tear into scrumptious specialities made with fresh local ingredients and sold at prices no restaurant can match, like Jamaican jerk chicken, Japanese-style macaroons, and American Southern-style barbecue.
Don't let all this multi-culti talk scare you away from traditional English food. For my money, there's absolutely nothing better than good fish and chips, a slab of moist, flaky white fish, and crisp fried potatoes so hot they burn your fingers. Douse them in vinegar and you've got a feast. Don't forget two more English favourites, pie and mash and jellied eels. London is also a great place to eat a gourmet hamburger.
How about something a bit more genteel, like afternoon tea? Picture yourself floating down the Thames drinking good British tea and eating finger sandwiches, cakes and scones with jam and a generous dollop of cream. That's just one of City Cruise's exciting excursions that include delightful food and drink. Besides the tea cruise, we feature a lunch cruise, and there's live entertainment on the London Showboat Dinner Cruise and the Sundowner Cruise. For more information, ask any crew member.
Getting back to drinking,
I suspected you might.
you can sample the best of food and drink at an incredible array of London gastro pubs. And we have tip-top microbreweries serving artisan handmade beers in varieties you wouldn't find anywhere else, like mango-flavoured wheat beer.
That sounds less like a beer than a pudding. In other words, dessert.
How much excitement can you take? Find out aboard Thames Jet. Our military-grade jet boats fly along the river at maximum legal speed. The Thames Rush experience takes you past incredible views of London to Canary Wharf, or blast all the way to the Thames Barrier on the Thames Max experience. Thames Jet is perfect for stag and hen parties, and we're licensed to thrill for corporate A-teams on our unforgettable river raids. We provide experienced skippers and waterproof clothing. Ask any crew member about Thames Jet, the acrobatic ride of your life.
That's the famous Tower Bridge of London. It's an open bridge.
When we sail up the Tower Bridge, we will enter the ancient city of London, known as the Square Mile. The City of London on the North Bank is a city within a city. It's the oldest part of London, where the Romans built Londinium in the 1st century. They surrounded it with a wall that remained there until the 1700s. Later, William the Conqueror built a fortification at the eastern end of the wall. This became the Tower of London, the ancient stone fortress with 4 domed turrets.
The main span of Tower Bridge opens in the centre to let tall ships sail through. The bridge also has an overhead walkway added, so pedestrians could cross when the bridge was up. Today, that walkway houses part of the Tower Bridge exhibition, where you can learn more about this world-famous bridge and enjoy incredible views of London from 42 metres or 138 feet above the River Thames.
The HMS Belfast is permanently moored along the south bank. This gigantic grey and blue British warship is now a floating museum with interactive exhibits that help you imagine what life was like for her crew during the Second World War and the Korean War. The Belfast looks huge, but her crew slept in hammocks just 52 centimeters or 20
This
inches
grey
apart.
building on my right is the Gold. This is the
We're approaching
Tower
our
Bridge
next stop at Tower
prison
Pier.
that Queen Victoria was beheaded. They are not telling me about that part of the history, but look at it.
All your belongings with you and return your audio guide to
That's the
member
famous
of the
goal where
for choosing
Queen
City
Victoria head was beheaded in that goal. You notice the record is silent on that, but that's the famous goal, the prison, Tower Bridge prison. I think it's King George that beheaded his wife head in that dungeon over there. So we are now in the city of London. It's a city within a city. And that's the famous Tower Bridge goal. So this is our first stop at Tower Bridge Pier. The famous warship that they say now is a museum. It's on my left. There we go. Have a close-up look at Belfast. A surname, Belfast.
Well, ladies and gents, we are coming alongside Tower Pier. We're going to be at Tower Pier for just over 5 minutes. When we leave, our next stop, so we're going to be making our way to Westminster, the Houses of Parliament, Big Ben. So Big Ben will be the next stop, and then we also stop at the London Eye as well. If you're staying on board, just bear with us. Won't be here for too long. If anyone's leaving us, please be careful stepping off the boat. Make sure you've got the belongings.
Yeah, we are under the River Thames now. They call this the Greenwich Pathway. So, could actually say this is a dungeon. You know, under this tunnel remind me of the walls of GP in the dungeon, the dumb cell of GP. This is how ancient this place is that I'm walking, and it reminds me, ironically, of the dumb cell in GP Penitentiary. So you should do a research to see if both these places was built by the same entity. I think this tunnel, if I'm correct, it is supposed to be close to a mile long, but it's under the tunnel, under the River Thames. This would be a nice bomb shelter if the war should ever get to Britain, and I can make it to this tunnel with my sleeping bag and my rifle. I have to have my rifle. Because remember, keep in mind, it's us and them. So there's no way I could come under here without my rifle. So I'm going to take you on a journey today. And that journey will be along the River Thames, to show you the origin of the slave trade. We can clock the timing and the walk through the tunnel to see how long it takes me to go through this tunnel. So for those of you with the clock watching, you will see the clock. It's a bit cold on here. So we made it. So we are now in Greenwich. And the ferry pier is over there. That's the famous Greenwich War Museum over there. Here we go. So we're taking off now. Babes.
City Cruises welcomes you aboard. For your safety, please listen carefully to the following announcement. Please remain seated while the riverboat is moving. And if you leave your seat, watch your step and hold on to the handrail. We have life rafts and life jackets on board for every passenger, including children's sizes. Emergency exits are clearly marked with international symbols. Please take a moment to locate your nearest exit. In the unlikely event that we need to evacuate the vessel, remain calm and follow the instructions given by the crew. Thank you for your attention. As we leave Greenwich, look along the tree line at the top of the hill behind the town. Can you spot a T-shaped bowl with a red ball on it? It sits on top of the Royal Observatory, a building designed by Robert Hooke and Sir Christopher Wren. That ball rises every day and drops at precisely 1300 hours, or 1 p.m. Ship's captains used to watch for the ball to drop, so they could set their nautical instruments to the correct time. That's where we get the expression, keep your eye on the ball. The tradition continues today, even though most modern ships use computerized time settings. The Royal Observatory is the home of Greenwich Mean Time, the baseline for time zones around the world. It's also the location of zero longitude. So every measurement of time and place worldwide refers back here to Greenwich.
I hear you thinking, you English always see yourselves as the centre of the world. Don't blame us, blame the Astronomer Royal. Greenwich today feels like an old English village in the middle of a city, with quaint shops lining the winding streets. Of course, Many of those shops now sell gourmet food and contemporary art. We're setting our course upriver, winding our way in a westerly direction toward the City of London. Along the way, you'll hear about the lifestyles of Londoners today and about the amazing life of the River Thames. Described the Thames as liquid history. It was here when London was born, and the river remembers everything, good and bad. Long before the Romans arrived, nature had already colonized the banks of the Thames. Birds and other animals flourished along the river. The waters teemed with salmon, flounder, sea trout, and other fish. The air was always clean because rising tides carried fresh air in from the ocean, and ebb tides pulled stale air out to the sea. Then came humankind, who saw the river as a resource that could never be exhausted. They drank from the Thames even as they used it as a dumping ground for refuse. By the 1600s, the water was no longer fit to drink. Londoners recognized the problem, but did nothing about it until 1858, the year of the Great Stink. A newspaper reported that the smell of the Thames even reached the Houses of Parliament.
Parliament was all but compelled to legislate upon the great London nuisance by the force of sheer stench. A few members, indeed, bent upon investigating the matter to its very depth, ventured into the library, but they were instantaneously driven to retreat, each man with a handkerchief to his nose.
London installed a sewer system and brought the Great Stink to an end. But the bombing of London in World War II damaged London's sewage system, which began flowing into the Thames again. By the 1950s, the river was biologically dead. Once more, the country was forced into action. The sewers were repaired, industry stopped dumping waste into the Thames, reed beds were encouraged to grow along the banks, creating new ecosystems. Today, the Thames is one of the cleanest rivers in the world. More than 100 species of fish live in these waters. Herons, cormorants and other waterfowl have returned. Dolphins and porpoises are being spotted at Tower Bridge, and seals visit Canary Wharf. The modern world poses new challenges every day, including climate change. We can never again take the health of this river for granted. For the sake of England and the world, may the liquid history of the Thames be a story for future generations to tell with pride.